What's up, horror fans? Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, and we've got some Blair Witch news to get to. Some interesting stuff that I saw courtesy of Bloody Disgusting just today. But before we do, as always, guys, remember, if you enjoy my content, if you're new here and you do enjoy the content, leave a like, subscribe, share, and definitely turn on notifications. So let's go ahead and jump right in here, because I don't know about you guys, but I am a huge fan of the Blair Witch franchise, and even though this isn't any kind of news of a imminent project coming, it is something that the original creators are definitely interested in doing, and I, for one, am interested in seeing it. So let's go ahead and dig into this article. Once again, courtesy of bloodydisgusting.com. Let's take a look here. We'll read the article and then we'll discuss. So it says, the 1999 found footage film The Blair Witch Project, in addition to entirely changing the game in multiple different ways, spawned its own sprawling universe of media, including official follow-up films in 2000 and 2016, as well as multiple books and video games that have served to deepen the lore. But what's next for Blair Witch as a film franchise, you ask? The 2016 sequel, directed by Adam Wingert, wasn't exactly a big hit at the box office, which, by the way, that still saddens me to this day. I thoroughly enjoyed that film. But the original film's directors have never given up hope on someday returning to the franchise to pump new life into it. Oddly enough, Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez didn't have much creative input in either of the follow-up films, despite having a wealth of ideas, which, by the way, is kind of a travesty, because those guys, in a large portion, made that original film what it is. As Myrick explained to Bloody Disgusting's The Boo Crew podcast this week, Lionsgate hasn't been too interested in our input. It's sort of ironic, but whenever they're ready, we're hanging out if you want us to come back in and take a stab at it. Myrick also noted, Ed and I wrote a sequel script. It's on the shelf over at Lionsgate. We implied that the mythology goes before the Ellie Kedward story, which is very interesting to me. This is something we've been hearing about for years. Even going back to the original, before Book of Shadows ever came out, there was this idea floated around online that the next Blair Witch film was going to be like a period piece taking place back in the days of Ellie Kedward, the Blair Witch. So, I mean, this is something we've been hearing for 20 plus years at this point. He continued, it's been preaching this gospel, both Ed and I, for years. We set up a universe, a Blair Witch universe, that is, by design, to be explored. And boy, is it. I mean, really, just the crumbs, the nuggets of information in that first film alone leave an entire universe, like they said, to be explored. But getting back to the article, he says, as a creative person, I love the idea of having this standalone Rustin Parr movie, or an original film that feels like The Witch, a period piece. It doesn't have to say Blair Witch, but it's part of the Blair universe. So there's plenty to mine from what we've created and what's already been established. And all you have to do is imply that it's part of the Blair Witch universe. The fans will know. So it's been our pitch to Lionsgate since day one. You've got all the episodes already done. Let's do it in a cool way. It's ripe to be done, and I think it still can be done. How cool would it be to make Rustin Parr like a black and white noir? You could do a historical period piece of the Ellie Kedward story, Myrick mused. You could have 4 or 5 of these movies that are all part of the Blair Witch canon, that are in their own standalone films, their own standalone style, and look, I think it'd be really popular. And I'll be honest with you, that's all the article says here, but I'm totally on board with this. And Bloody I didn't screen cap it here, but Bloody Disgusting kind of put a side note at the bottom that said it kind of sounds like these guys are talking about a TV show, because at this point, the original Blair Witch did great, fantastic, made a lot of money, made some people very upset and or motion sick. But overall, I think the general standpoint on this film is that less was more. It ended up being a very interesting, if nothing else, film. I think it's a classic. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the stuff that followed it wasn't exactly making them huge amounts of money. I mean, the sequel, Book of Shadows, didn't exactly do well. 2016's Blair Witch didn't do very well. I'm sure the video games and other media, aren't going to bring in the type of bucks that a big box office like a huge sequel to this would be. But at the same token, I don't think anyone's ever really tried to put in a lot of money to make a really good sequel and a lot of good ideas to make a really good sequel. I feel like people, especially with that original sequel, felt like the name alone would be enough to draw people into the theaters, and it simply wasn't. But it's going, it all ties back into what Bloody Disgusting had to say here in that little piece at the end where they say this could be a really good TV series for Netflix or something like that. And I totally agree, because if they're not going to put that budget into it that needs to be there for a feature-length film, it may be just as interesting, considering these guys obviously have a wealth of ideas to do something like this over at Netflix. It'd be a lot more cost-efficient, and I think you could pump out more stories and greatly expand on that universe that they're talking about. I, for one, am down for this. I think that the things that have been established are vague yet familiar to the fan base, and that you could go a million different ways from here. The story of Coffin Rock, Rustin Parr, Ellie Kedward, the list just goes on and on and on. And Netflix, if you're listening, guys, what the fuck are you doing? You have Disney Plus nipping at your heels. And I know, like I say, I know this isn't some big, huge thing like a, Star Wars, Mandalorian type thing to compete, but I'll say, I think there's a market for it. And I think even people who aren't fans of the Blair Witch would enjoy some things like this, because you could almost have it feeling somewhat like an American Horror Story type thing. So you know what? I would love to see it personally. What do all you guys and gals think? Leave comments down below. Let me know what you think about the possibility of expanding the Blair Witch universe with, either a couple of films, which I really don't see happening, even though I would like to see it, or possibly a show on Netflix expanding this Blair Witch mythology. So yeah, let me know what you all think down in the comments section below. Once again, guys, remember, if you enjoyed the content, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe, share it out, turn on notifications, and definitely check down below in the description section with links to follow me on social media or support my work via Patreon. So, as always, I'm Bran from Bloody Breakdown, and we'll catch you all next time.